You will not disrespect this courtroom with your unprofessional attire. Judge Harold Bennett's deep voice echoed across the wooden courtroom, stopping every whisper in the room. Everyone turned to look at the woman standing alone in front of the judge's bench. She wore blue scrubs, her hands a little shaky, but her face stayed calm. The air felt heavy, like something big was about to happen. People stared in silence, wondering who she was and what she had done to make the judge so angry. Why did her clothes matter so much? What happened next would shock everyone, but first, she had to face the judge's full anger. Everyone stared at the woman in blue scrubs. Her name was Emily Carter. She stood tall, even though her fingers slightly shook. Her eyes didn't drop, not even under the judge's cold stare. She looked tired, like she had come from somewhere serious, not just outside the courthouse. Whispers moved through the room, people wondering why she was dressed like that, why she looked so strong, and what made her important enough to face a judge like this. Emily didn't speak. She didn't have to. The courtroom felt frozen, like it was waiting for her next move. Something about her told everyone she didn't come here for something small. She came with purpose. Emily Carter had spent the last 12 years working as a trauma nurse. Her world wasn't quiet courtrooms or fancy offices. It was fast-moving hospital halls, loud alarms, and life-or-death choices made in seconds. She wore scrubs because she had to be ready for anything. Her hands had stopped bleeding and stitched wounds more times than she could count. She held the hands of patients when they were scared, and sometimes, she was the last person someone ever saw. Her job wasn't easy, but she never walked away. Emily didn't care about showing off or dressing up. She cared about saving lives. That's why courtrooms were strange to her. Everything moved slower here. But still, she had come because today wasn't about her comfort. It was about someone who couldn't speak for themselves. She had seen the truth, and she couldn't ignore it. That's what brought her into this courtroom. Emily wasn't in court for herself. She was there for a young boy named Miguel. Just days ago, he had been hit by a drunk driver while walking home. Emily was the nurse who first saw him after the crash. She remembered the blood, the fear, and the look on his mother's face. But now, the driver's rich lawyer was twisting everything, saying Miguel had run into the street. That wasn't true, and Emily knew it. She saw the whole thing, how the driver had sped through a red light without stopping. Emily didn't have time to change out of her scrubs. She rushed to the courthouse because Miguel's voice couldn't be heard, but hers could. She wasn't used to courtrooms or judges. But she was used to standing up when it mattered. And right now, Miguel needed her more than ever. Emily walked into the courtroom just as her name was called. She didn't even get a full step before the bailiff hesitated. "You can't," he started, but it was too late. The trial had already begun. She quickly took the witness stand, hoping her clothes wouldn't matter. But they did. Judge Bennett's sharp eyes landed on her like a spotlight. "Miss Carter, are you aware this is a courtroom, not an emergency room?" he said. Some people in the gallery laughed. Emily felt her face grow hot. She looked down at her scrubs, still marked with a faded bloodstain. The judge leaned in, his voice firm. "Your attire is unacceptable. This is a place of respect." Emily sat frozen. She could feel the defendant smirk without even looking at him. And that made her chest tighten even more. She was here to help, not to be humiliated. Emily stayed silent, gripping the edge of the witness stand as Judge Bennett scolded her. She could feel her heartbeat pounding in her ears. The courtroom felt cold, but she didn't move. Then, the prosecutor spoke up, trying to defend her. "Your Honor, Miss Carter is a key witness," but the judge cut him off. Then she should have dressed like one. Emily could hardly believe what she was hearing. This wasn't about clothes. It was about the truth. Her eye scanned the room and then she saw Miguel's mother sitting in the front row, quietly crying. That's when something changed inside her. The judge was still talking when Emily stood up. "With all due respect, Your Honor, no," she said, her voice clear and loud. Gasps filled the room. Everyone turned toward her. Emily wasn't just a nurse now. She was someone who refused to stay quiet when it really counted. The courtroom went completely quiet. Emily stood tall, even though her hands were still shaking. She raised her arm and pointed to the stain on her scrubs. "This isn't just clothing," she said. "This is Miguel's blood. I came straight from the ICU, where he's fighting to stay alive because of that man." She pointed straight at the driver. The room froze. No one made a sound. Emily looked around, locking eyes with the jury, the judge, and even the lawyer. "You talk about respect? Respect is showing up. Respect is standing here when it's hard. Respect is telling the truth when others won't. I didn't come here for praise. I came here for Miguel." Her voice didn't shake now. "And I won't change clothes to make anyone more comfortable with what really happened." She looked the judge in the eye. "These scrubs? They're what real honor looks like." You could hear a pin drop. For a long moment, the courtroom was silent. Then, slowly, Miguel's mother stood up. Tears were running down her face, but she was smiling. Her hands clapped, and then, the jury joined in. Soon, everyone in the room was standing and clapping. Emily didn't know what to think at first. She had only spoken the truth. She hadn't expected this. Judge Bennett, who had been so harsh just moments before, sat back in his chair. His gavel hovered in the air, but he didn't bring it down. He simply nodded. "Proceed, Miss Carter," he said, his voice softer now. Emily felt her heart slow. The tension in the room had melted away. It wasn't about the clothes anymore. It was about doing what was right. She took a deep breath and began her testimony, knowing she had already won something more important than this case. As Emily continued her testimony, the smirk on the defendant's face slowly faded away. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat as Emily's words made the truth clear. She described the accident in detail, the way the driver had ignored the red light, the way Miguel had no chance to escape. The jury was listening closely, nodding at each word. Emily didn't let up. Every fact she shared was undeniable. The defendant's lawyer tried to object, but the judge stopped him. The facts were clear. The truth was out. And now, the defendant couldn't hide behind his lies. Miguel's mother wiped her tears, finally allowing herself to breathe. She looked at Emily with gratitude. This wasn't just a case. It was about justice for her son. Emily had become the voice Miguel needed. And in that moment, it felt like the whole courtroom was on her side. When Emily finished her testimony, she stepped down from the stand, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. She had done it. The truth was out, and the courtroom was no longer focused on her clothes. As she walked past the jury, something unexpected happened. The bailiff, the one who had once stopped her at the door for her scrubs, gave her a quiet nod. He wasn't just doing his job now, he was showing respect. Emily smiled, but it was a smile of quiet pride. She had earned that respect. As the trial continued, the room was filled with a different kind of energy. No one was thinking about the bloodstains on her scrubs anymore. They were thinking about the bravery she had shown. They had learned something important today: respect isn't about appearances. It's about standing up for what's right, no matter the cost. As the trial went on, the tension in the courtroom continued to build. Emily's words had left their mark. The defendant's lawyer tried his best to defend his client, but the evidence was clear. Miguel's story couldn't be denied. The driver had made a mistake, and now he would have to pay for it. When the jury finally returned with their verdict, the judge looked at Emily, his expression a mix of respect and acknowledgement. "Guilty," he announced. Emily felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had fought for Miguel, and justice had been served. She glanced at Miguel's mother, who was now smiling through her tears. The courtroom had been tense and uncertain, but now, there was a sense of closure. Emily had done more than testify. She had become the voice for a family in need of justice, and she had given them hope.